Jimmy Swenson was a true friend who did what good friends should do for each other, but too many people prefer to act like ostriches and stay out of such problems. He called me and suggested we meet at a coffee shop after work that afternoon. Of course, I accepted his invitation, and as soon as we sat down at the table, he said, "Martin, good husband, used to being the last to know the news. Why should I ask you if you know about Rose Marie's boyfriend on the net?" Some coffee came into the tube, and I started coughing before I could answer. "No, not at all. It's a complete surprise to me. Do you know the details?" Jimmy continued, "I'm sorry, very sorry, but I think it's best to know these things and act as soon as possible. If you go too far, things can end up like Russian roulette with illnesses from a cheating spouse, like what happened to the poor guy at my work. I don't know for sure if Rose Marie had already had sex with her drunken lover before their next date, but I doubt it. So you can still stop it if you want to." This made me both angry and interested at the same time, so I asked, "How do you know about Rose Marie cheating?" Jimmy replied, "As you probably know, the company my wife Christine worked for went bankrupt, so she got a temporary job with a secretarial service company and was hired for a few days at the office where your wife works. She didn't talk to Rose Marie, but one day during lunch, the regular girls at her table started talking about online dating. Although it was obvious that they all had wedding or engagement rings, two of them were passionate about online dating and were trying hard to convince the third, who didn't share their idea of having fun to brighten up their lives. Christina didn't pay much attention to their conversation at first, but became interested when one of them said, "Everyone's doing it now. Even that cutie Rose Marie Palmwald is making introductions and has booked a hotel room for Friday next week. They even knew this hotel and were giving their opinions on whether it was a good choice or a bad choice." Jimmy said, "Christina knows I have a friend called Palmwald, so she told me everything she knows and said I should do with that information as I see fit." Now I knew for certain that Jimmy had told me the cruel truth, for Rose Marie had told me a few days ago about her plans to go out that Friday to party with the girl gang, who usually had a good time when they met at their seminars. Jimmy tried his best to convince me that any violence was out of the question because cheating on my wife wasn't worth it. He gave some advice on what I should do, and before we parted, I thanked him and agreed to keep it between the two of us. Even his wife was not to get involved from now on. I had two choices: act immediately, without any evidence, or use the 8 days before she left on Friday to gather evidence. No matter what she chose, I had no legal right to stop her from going on a date if she decided to go on one. The only legal option was divorce. I decided to wait until Friday. Both Rose Marie and I, Martin Palmwald, are 38 years old. We met and married 13 years ago, and today we are a typical small-town Scandinavian family with 2 daughters, Lena 9 and Moa 7, a house, 2 cars, and a small dog. Rosa Maria is quite a pretty woman for her age, as are most of her friends and co-workers. I would say rather average. The only difference is that she sometimes dresses with a bit more taste than the rest of them, which kind of makes her stand out when she is with other peers. Of course, no one is perfect, not even Rose Marie. Her weakness was sex. Not that she refused to let me have sex with her on a regular basis, and even got ecstatic most of the time when we did. But making love, in her opinion, meant only the missionary position, and anything else was considered something only perverts do. So I couldn't suspect Rose Marie of cheating at all. If a bookmaker had placed a bet on the matter, I would no doubt have dared to bet big money on no. Back home, I did nothing that evening, but the next day after lunch, I took half a day off and went out to look for clues. Rose Marie and I had identical laptops, and since I had helped her set it up and knew her password, it wasn't hard to log in. I then looked into her Gmail and saw that she had opened a new Gmail account, which I couldn't open. When working with computers, the number of passwords is quite large, and since it is recommended to have different passwords for each case, it would be quite impossible to memorize them without some kind of written backup. So I came up with a simple but useful system, which I shared with Rose Marie. It was an exciting few seconds before I figured out whether she had used some sort of proprietary password that would be impossible for me to crack, or whether she thought that I, who had never been jealous since we met, would never suspect her of something like that, and took the easy way out. It was already my third attempt that brought me bingo and gave me one of the worst days of my life. I downloaded everything onto a memory card, and after an investigation that yielded no results, I closed her laptop. I first looked at the attached photo files. He had sent her a picture of him standing on some southern beach, a rather stout, well-tanned, blonde-haired guy who had clearly spent time at the gym and was probably getting extra help from those pills said to be common in such places. I'd estimate his age to be in his early 30s, a real gigolo prototype. Rosa Maria sent him a topless photo of her in black lace panties standing at our bedroom window. A very good photo in perfect lighting that made her look much younger than her 38 years. I had to admire her skill with our new digital camera and try to guess what she was using as a tripod. As expected, there were no marks left on the camera after the photo shoot. It wasn't funny at all to read the posts. Apparently, they met at a one-day seminar, where they had a nice lunch and agreed to keep in touch via email. The first messages were perfectly innocent, but as time went on, they became more and more obnoxious. It was obvious that they hadn't met since the seminar, and their date next week would be their first chance to have sex unless I prevented it. It was disgusting to read that Rose Marie didn't object when he called me your poor raghead husband, and even more disgusting to read what he promised to do to my sanctimonious wife, and that she was obviously looking forward to it without any objection. The question that plagued me was, did she really mean what she wrote, or was she just joking with the damn jerk? The main problem was that I had no information about her lover, no name, no place of residence, and no family. During our Friday night family fun, I asked Rose Marie, "You already told me that next Friday you are coming to some man's birthday party and staying there overnight. What kind of party is that, and where are you going? Do I know her?" A strange expression appeared on her face for a split second before she replied, "No, you don't know her. Her name is Magdalena von Breitenschloss, and we're a gang of girls who date each other and have fun at boring seminars." "Sounds fair to me. And what hotel did you book for the night?" I asked. She named me the city, the best Western Scandia hotel, and said, smiling, "I'm sure the party will be a lot of fun, and I really hope Maggie doesn't suffer from a hangover before the big family dinner on Saturday." What a bitch, I thought. But at least the hotel was the same one her co-workers were talking about when Christina heard that. However, I took my investigation a little further by checking out the noble Maggie's. The next day, while Rosa Maria and our girls were out shopping, I looked up information about this nobleman named Maggie and found that there were no von Breitenschlosses living in the town where Rosa Maria was going to go at all. But in a nationwide search, I found two Magdalene von Breitenschlosses, one of whom was 86 years old and the other, who might have been Rose Marie's friend, was 42. But it seemed a bit odd for a regular guy like me to throw a 40th birthday party for a 42-year-old woman, especially since her hometown was about 180 kilometers in the opposite direction from our home to the town where the famous party was rumored to be held. Rosa Maria made a big mistake when she tried to impress me as a noble friend. If she had chosen a name as common as Anna Johansson, there would have been plenty of them in the neighborhood where she intended to go on a date. Perhaps even a few people of the right age. Nothing happened until Sunday evening when I pretended I needed to get some work done after Rosa Maria went to bed. She had left her cell phone in the kitchen to boot, and, since we knew each other's pins, checking it was a breeze. No strange photos, text, or voice messages, but lots of phone numbers unknown to me. After the initial search, only 2 numbers belonging to men unknown to me remained as targets for further investigation. I didn't need to know the name of Rose Marie's lover to get to the bottom of her cheating, but I could use the name to find his wife, if he had one. The first number was used by a girl who got her boyfriend's old iPhone when he got a new one from work. But the second number was Bingo, one Daniel Rodillo, who lives about 165 kilometers from the hotel where the meeting was held. This guy fit in perfectly with the setting. Rose Marie and him would have to travel almost the same distance to the rendezvous site. Now it was easy to find additional information about a guy with such an unusual last name. Self-employed as a counselor and lecturer, making him good money, a wife of 32, a boy of 6 and a girl of 4, a house with fairly high taxes, and 2 cars. The asshole's wife needed to know her husband's intentions. It ended abruptly. My coworker happened to have a sister who lives in the same city and neighborhood as the Rodillo family, and she had no trouble finding where Daniel's wife Annie worked. I called Annie at her job, and we agreed on how to handle information about our spouses. I took Friday off, but got up at the usual time and went to the garage to call Annie on her cell phone to get an update on our activities. Rosemarie was very surprised to see me home, but accepted my explanation about the dentist later in the morning. After sending the kids off to school, she went to our bedroom to change for the trip and came back in a very nice outfit. I suggested she sit down to clear up some minor misunderstandings, to which she agreed after a little hesitation. My first question was, "There is no room reserved for you at the Scandia Hotel. Why?" "Because it was Melissa's job to book the rooms. Apparently she booked them in her name," she replied. "No, at least not at the Best Western Scandia. No such rooms are booked." She smiled at me and said, "That's okay. She got something cheaper to save money for us." Even I replied with a smile. "Sounds reasonable indeed. But I have another question because Magdalena von Breitenschloss does not live in this town. However, she does exist, but she lives about 350 kilometers away from this town, and can you tell me why she would travel that far to celebrate her 40th birthday, and do so more than 2 years after it actually happened?" Rosemarie looked at me for a second before saying, "Please forgive me for not telling you the truth. I am so ashamed of my lies. The truth is that our gang was hired to wait topless at a corporate party. It's an innocent event, and we girls will go elsewhere for our own party when the dancing starts at 10 o'clock. To avoid scandal, the catering company prefers to hire out-of-town waitresses. Only a fun and innocent experience for us, I can promise you." She wasn't bad, very smart, not bad to recognize a good lie like that in a second. Would I ever dare trust her? God only knows. But I replied, still smiling, "That sounds very plausible in regard to a very interesting company event. Yes, it really is." Rosemarie gave me a bright smile and asked, "Are we ready now, and I can drive to my exotic job?" I smiled back and looked her straight in the eye before asking, "Not really, my dear Rosemarie. I don't want you to go there at all, but since we both know that I have no legal means of stopping you, I can only ask you, please do me and our girls a big favor and don't do the stupid things you're going to do there?" She hesitated for a couple seconds before replying in a slightly annoyed voice, "I wish I could, but I promised to do it, and I have to keep my promises. It's just one day." I didn't even bother pretending to be polite and said, "Can I take it as an answer that your damn intentions for this night really mean more to you than the future of your family?" Now a concerned expression appeared on her face as she replied, "Why are you arguing? Many people have seen my breasts on various beaches without any objection from you. Is it really so damn different from sitting at a table for a couple hours among people who don't even know me? Your breasts can be seen on the internet, so there's no reason to worry about who sees them. But I didn't buy that stupid bullshit about waiting at a table, even though it was a damn good lie. Who would have known or even suspected you were such a skilled liar? I was talking about your real reason for going to spend the night in this hotel." Rosemarie is not stupid. Sighted and realized she was playing with a lot of fire and had very low odds because I obviously knew more than what had been said so far, so she gave up her deceptive intentions by saying, "This damn trip isn't worth further argument, and I'll skip it if it makes you happy. By the way, who says my boobs are visible on the internet? Thanks for skipping this stupid trip. You saved a bunch of gas and hopefully even increased your chances of saving our marriage because Daniel Rodillo isn't waiting for you in room 312 of the Best Western Scandia Hotel tonight. You should know that his wife Annie Rodillo and I are cooperating in this disgusting affair. Nice breasts, really," said I, and handed her a copy of her topless photo. She panicked and started screaming, "Lord, Lord in heaven, what have I done? Please forgive me. Please tell me you forgive me. I didn't mean to humiliate you or have some affair. It was just a one-time innocent affair. I love you, only you, and I will never do such a horrible, stupid thing again. Please believe me and forgive me." How can a poor weakling believe what a skillful liar like you tells him? May I assume that this is not your first infidelity? How many times before this? Never before, that's for sure. Today was both my first and my last crazy intention to have an affair online, as many of my friends have done. I don't think you're a wuss, and you never have been." She sobbed. I was starting to feel talkative enough and said, "That is this Daniel's impression of me. However, I have no right to demand of you what you don't want to do, and you are free to walk away from our marriage at any time. But if you want to stay married to the poor weakling for some strange reason, you must let him do to you all the things you promised Daniel. From now on, for 1 month, you must obey whatever this wimpy guy wants in the bedroom. For everything else, we will proceed as usual. The choice is yours, marriage or divorce." Rosa Maria replied, "I love you, and I want to stay with my family. I will obey and do whatever you want." "Good. Let's go to the bedroom where you can give the poor weakling everything that your lover Daniel will be deprived of tonight." Jesus Christ, do you really know everything? She looked away. "No, not at all, but Annie didn't like you suggesting it to her husband." I said it because there would be nothing wrong if she thought it was Daniel's wife who had found out their secrets. In our bedroom, I lowered the blinds and turned them so that the room was semi-dark, and then asked Rosemarie to undress, but leave her high-heeled shoes and lace-up stockings on. She did so, and for some reason she tried to do it very sensually. She was gorgeous, and I was horny as hell. Not a few seconds later, I was already undressed and sitting by our bed, waiting for her after some hesitation to do what she had refused to do for so many years. Although it wasn't my game, not my game at all, I had to do it because Rosemarie had promised Daniel access to all the ways he could enjoy her body. He joked, writing, "Hello, hello, all good things are threesomes." And since she didn't object or ask what he meant, it should have been clear that even that act was part of their intentions. After all, it would be better for her to have him in the marriage and hopefully avoid divorce as an added bonus. After a quick shower, it was time to get back into the action. There was no hurry, so we let dinner run its course and spent the remaining time dealing with some chores around the house until our girls returned from school. Rosemarie obeyed me without objection in anything she was asked to do in the bedroom for the entire week after the attempted cheating. For a number of reasons, after the first weekend, I did not do anything inappropriate with her on weekday evenings. Only a missionary quickie on Wednesday nights. The following Friday night, when our daughters were already asleep after having a very good time during our Friday night family fun, Rosemarie offered to drink wine, eat crackers, and even talk a little, to which I agreed. Although I was still humiliated by her failed attempt at deception, I knew for a fact that we had a happy family and I could never find a better wife than Rosemarie. I'd be a real fool if I didn't forgive her that very evening before we went to bed. After small talk about pressing matters, she asked with a serious look, "What about the future? Have you thought about it?" "Yes, I have, and I really want to have a good relationship with an honest and faithful, loving wife, because I'm sick of this whore game you and I are playing so far," I replied. She turned pale and stammered, "Are you going to leave me?" "Never in my life if you become the loving wife I want. Please give me a second chance, and I promise to do everything in my power to become that good, loving wife," she replied with surprise. "Sounds good. Let's put all the old ghosts aside and start a new phase in our marriage. We can do it right now if you don't mind," said I to my surprised wife. Then she hugged me and kissed me for a long time before asking, "Yes, I don't mind, and can I expect you to be a faithful and loving husband?" "I will be," said I, smiling. Rosa Maria replied, "Fair enough, and come with me because we have some things to do." She then took my hand and dragged me to our bedroom, where we immediately started undressing each other before doing what she wanted. It was great to indulge in true love again. Epilogue. Rosemarie and I kept our problems a secret, and no one, especially those of unequaled experience, could blame me for not leaving her. There is no doubt that forgiving her was the right decision, because today, Rosemarie and I have a very good marriage, and we even have better sex than we did before her attempted infidelity. Annie Rodillo told me what Daniel had to pay to save their marriage. She demanded and obtained that all of their joint property be transferred to her private estate. If Daniel does anything stupid in the future, he will be kicked out unconditionally. But as long as he remains a good guy, Annie told me, she will be a very good, loving wife.